This is a call for vengeance. Welcome to today's show. This is the type of video I have to be very careful doing here on YouTube, but I'm going to attempt to do it, even though I know there's a chance I get a strike. So make sure you subscribe to my backup channel below, and definitely make sure if you haven't done that yet, to also check out my new podcast. I have the links to that below. I just did episode 3. It's about a 45-minute episode. Check it out. It's free. Make sure you make an account on Spotify or Podbean and subscribe to the podcast so you can get email notifications. But for now, while I'm still here on YouTube, I'm leaving the links below in the description box and pinned in the comments. So make sure you subscribe. This is just, this goes along the lines with can't make this blank up, can you? Scientists have discovered strange entities in our bodies that they're calling obelisks. That's right, obelisks. Unbelievable. Their purpose is a mystery. Now, isn't it amazing how all these new scientific discoveries are happening after, this big event occurred when people were putting certain things inside their bodies that weren't natural, which weren't curing anything. It was actually changing the structure of what the insides of a human being are like. So suddenly we have all this new science out there. Nobody's wondering why, because they're too busy. They're too distracted. Of course, they're too dumbed down to realize what was just done to the majority of people. So the fact that they're naming this obelisk is enough for people to probably, you would think, to maybe go, why are you naming it obelisk? Like, what is an obelisk? Well, the obelisk has lots of occult significance, right? We see the Washington Monument, the obelisk outside Washington, D.C., that is, of course, 6,666 inches tall and 666 inches wide. But, hey, those are just conspiracies, right? The dimensions of an obelisk, which is supposed to represent Baal's shaft. And, of course, in ancient Egypt, the obelisk really represents the phallus of Osiris, okay? And Osiris is worshipped in ancient Egypt, still worshipped to this day, and Osiris really, to these people, represents the god of the underworld, the god of the dead, and Osiris is supposedly the son of Ra, the sun god. He was considered the son of the sun god Ra, who after his death ascended to join Ra in the sky. He is literally looked at as the Lord or the God of the underworld, the God of the dead. And we see Osiris worship all around us. So the fact that people just took, something in their bodies, which changed their genetic structure, their genetic code, and now things like this are popping up, and they're even naming them with words like obelisk, they're telling you that they're creating a new genetic code inside of human beings. But here's a little short video for those of you that are trying to understand what this is even about.
In the realm of the unexpected, Stanford University researchers unearth a new virus-like entity named obelisks in human mouth and gut bacteria. These RNA genomes showcase unusual looped structures and sequences found globally. Interestingly, unlike typical viruses, obelisks don't encode protein shells bearing a striking resemblance to viroids. Simple infectious RNA loops lacking protein shells, primarily affecting plants. Enabled by advanced software analysis of microbial gene catalogs, this discovery suggests obelisks are more complex than standard viroids, but less so than traditional viruses. This raises intriguing questions about their impact on human health and their evolutionary link with other virus-like entities. Life, it never ceases to surprise.
So it's a completely new type of biological entity which is being discovered in our bodies conveniently, right? This wasn't there 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but it's there now. It's there now. Don't wonder why. Just assume that these things just keep popping up. Humans are just changing on the inside. Well, why are they changing on the inside? Can anyone think of why they'd be changing? It says our bodies are home to trillions of microbes, including bacteria, viruses, fungi, and a whole host of others. A new Stanford study has discovered an entirely new class of biological entities inside of us, which they've ominously called obelisks, or named obelisks. I love those terms, right? Entities inside of us. That's right. Entities inside of you. So the microbiome, the microbiome we all carry around with us is so vast, we're still regularly learning new things about its makeup and how it affects our health. New strains of bacteria or viruses are discovered in there from time to time, oh sure. But it's not often scientists discover a completely new group of entities that don't fit any known category. And that's what they've just discovered. Known entities in the body that they've never seen before. Don't know how they got there. Don't know where they could have came from, right? But they're there. Okay. The The Stanford team calls them obelisks, thanks to their rod-like structure. Right? We should just call them Baal Shem. And they're kind of a cross between viruses and viroids. We're all familiar with the former, while viroids are simpler molecules of RNA that can replicate by chopping up and reforming their genome, but don't produce proteins and lack of protective shell. Obelisks have the basic structure of viroids, but like viruses, their simple genomes do seem to code for previously unknown proteins that scientists call obelins. So, isn't this interesting that there's this new science inside of human beings' bodies? You know, we've only been around for, I don't know, thousands of years here, right? And now suddenly they're just discovering that there's new stuff going on inside of us, nothing like they've ever seen before. But nobody can figure out why they've taken something that doesn't cure them, because that's what it's supposed to do, or make them immune from something that they're afraid of. Meanwhile, the genetics inside of human beings are mutating. They're changing on us, right? And we're coming up with even names like obelisk to describe it. You can't make this stuff up if you're paying attention and you follow what these people do. And then you understand that they all worship Lucifer, and this stuff ties back into ancient Egypt, and you can look at the Freemasonic Bibles that they have with all their Egyptian god worship, and they take terminology like obelisk. They're like, well, it's just shaped like that. All right. Nobody asks the question why the obelisk is even outside in Washington, D.C., right? Nobody asked that. Nobody asked about the statue of Isis in New York that they call the Statue of Liberty. Nothing. We're surrounded by this. We are literally in modern-day Mystery Babylon here in the United States. So it goes on to say, it turns out that obelisks are very common and surprisingly diverse. Yeah, they're suddenly very common. The scientists discovered almost 30,000 different types of them with microbiome samples taken from over 400 people from all around the world. They found in about 50% of tested oral microbiome samples and 7% of gut samples. It seems they've eluded detection so far because they don't look like anything else we know about. They look like nothing they've ever seen before. It's amazing. I don't know how that could just suddenly possibly happen, but, you know, I'm just a conspiracy, you know what I mean? I don't know. So it says, we find that obelisks form their own distinct phylogenetic group with no detectable sequence or structural similarity to known biological agents. That's because when you hear that term RNA, just put another letter in the alphabet in front of the R, which would likely be the M, right? I can't even say that in a bunch here because of the algorithm. But then you can figure out to yourself, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I heard that word before. I don't really know what it is, but it can go in me and it could change my genetic structure. Yeah. And then you could suddenly have obelisks forming in your gut. Does that sound fun? Yeah, don't worry about the fact that you're not immune to anything. Take it in. And then you could also have obelisks forming in you. Soon, you know, you'll probably be sitting on obelisks and putting them in your ear too, and you wouldn't even care at this point, would you? So exactly what they do in our bodies, these obelisks, remains a mystery for now. They could help or harm their hosts, which might not be us directly, but bacteria or fungi that call our bodies home. So far, the leading candidate is the Streptococcus sangus bacteria, which resides in dental plaque. The researchers say this easy-to-cultivate bacteria species, right, I love these word species, would be the best starting point for studying obelisks further. This study is yet to be peer-reviewed, but it's available free on websites like BioRx IV. And you even have people like, Vice, you have science.org who are covering this, and they're saying scientists are delighted by Obelisks' debut. Now, of course they're excited about it because they just literally were pretty aware.